Okay, great. All right. Thank you for being with me again, Brian. Um, and you are, I guess, a bicyclist. I don't know how else to introduce it if you want to introduce yourself, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, I would consider myself an avid cyclist. Also a bicycle mechanic, so kind of a lifestyle cyclist, if you will.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
so yeah.
Awesome. And so I guess first question, just to get off the bat, when did you get into biking and like how did that happen?
Yeah, so been I've been cycling pretty consistently since I was 16. So
Okay.
about 9 years.
Okay.
Um, but I've always kind of been around bikes, like just riding around the subdivision with friends and riding to the store and just doing that.
Right.
Parents always used to bring us to the Katy Trail, so we rode there as kids.
Yeah.
So kind of always been around cycling, always liked it, and I've just kind of gotten more competitive as I've grown with the sport.
Right. Okay. Cool. Cool. And I run. I'm a runner. So, but I've never really experienced, I don't know a whole lot about biking and bike races. So if it's all right, if I ask how long are bike races and what's the longest race that you've been in?
Yeah, so there's a bunch of different disciplines to cycling.
Right.
So it can be a 30-minute bike race,
Mhm.
all the way up to 15-hour gravel rides to trans country races where you actually pack your bike down, you carry all your food with you, and it's a
Wow.
multi-day event. So you can really do whatever you want. Kind of what I'm doing right now is more of the short, intense side of cycling. So
Okay.
that I'm doing is only about an hour long, but they're very high heart rate, lots of power output. The longest race I have done is probably in the 4 hours, 70-mile category.
Wow. That's a lot of biking. That's a lot of biking. So yeah, I guess if comparing it to running, you have like sprints and then you have distance and you're more of a sprinter kind of bicyclist.
I I really enjoy the high power, the intensity,
Yeah.
the adrenaline rush, if you will. Lots of strategy, but it is still fun to just kind of get out on the bike and just not have a place to go, just ride until you're tired.
Right. And when you go out and bike, is it rain or shine? Like, is there a time where you have rode on in a bike race and you're like, oh my gosh, this is pretty crazy conditions?
Yeah, actually, I did a criterium up in Iowa, and it was just absolutely pouring on us. Like they
Oh
were
yeah.
crashing out. There was what seemed like a river going across the road.
Wow.
That was a pretty epic day.
Yeah.
Lot of fun. Happy to stay upright. And I think I they paid out like 10 deep, and I came in eighth. So it was good getting in the
Wow.
money. So
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. Yeah, especially after all that rain, you're like, "Oh, okay, cool.
right,
Get a
exactly.
get a
It's
little dough."
pay off.
Yeah. Well, I kind of have like some questions. Is there like a biking community? These people that you race with, do you race with the same people over and over, or is it
Yeah.
kind of different?
Um, there's different there's different categories in cycling.
Mhm.
It is probably the most regimented. So everyone starts out as a category five. And then as you get a certain amount of top 10 finishes or a certain amount of wins, then you cat up. So cat five is beginner. Cat one is the fastest you can be before you're turning pro.
Okay.
Yeah, but there's a bunch of different cycling rides in the area. All the shops put on rides, so it's a pretty tight knit community.
Yeah.
It's really cool to see the same guys at races, get an idea of who's fit, who isn't, who's having a better year. You
Yeah.
kind of some friendly rivalries going and whatnot. So,
Right.
but it's pretty tight knit. Everyone's great to be around. Good to have that sense of community.
Yeah, but well, I feel like in a lot of sports, people there's a connection there with other people that do the same thing. You're like, "Oh, yeah, we are voluntarily putting ourselves in pain." And we kind of had that connection in that way.
There's some camaraderie that goes on there.
Yeah. Well, I guess we kinda talked about the race before, but is there maybe another race that you kind of think about as being one of the best races you've been in, or maybe just, like, the one that you remember the most for being,
So
"Oh, wow."
it was definitely the one in the rain. So that was actually a weekend of races. It was
Okay.
three races up in Iowa. That was just a great weekend. Went up there with like five guys. We were all racing. So it was awesome to be there to support one another. Go back to the house, fix a bunch of food, recover, get ready for the next day. Like you're just
Right.
in this schedule, and it's really exciting.
Yeah,
Uh,
in
that's
biking mode.
that's a pretty good one. The best one I had this year was I went down to the Tour of Herman, which is a 2K gravel event. So it's three 30-mile loops Saturday and two 50-mile loops Sunday. So
Wow.
200 miles throughout the weekend. I only did 50 each day.
Mhm.
But it's really cool to get out, ride with everybody again. Herman's beautiful. So it was
Yeah,
awesome to see the scenery down there. So that's been the best race this season so far.
for sure. I bet you see a lot of great views biking, so it's a good way to get around.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's really great, and it keeps you riding because you're like, oh man, I bet there's a great view over this hill if I could just make it to the top.
Right, if I can yeah, if I can survive the way up. Yeah. Okay, so I guess this is also something I wanted to ask. Is there anything that you say to yourself when you're in a race and it's getting kind of tough? Do you say anything to yourself or think anything, or you're just like, I just gotta go?
It's pretty much just in the moment. I don't really have like a phrase that I really go for. A lot of cyclists say like "shut up legs" or
Yes.
that's a pretty popular one. But for me, it's just keep going, head down. Just try and find comfort when you're turning yourself inside out.
Right.
Because when you're finally done, you always wish you gave a little bit harder. Like, oh, I could have done a
Yeah.
fast ball. I could have held a higher speed, all that
Right.
sort of stuff. So it's really for me, it's just doing the best you can, and not leaving anything on the table.
Right. Well, I guess that kind of got into my next question a little bit because at Mighty Cricket, we kind of have a mantra that's like, eat clean, live mighty. And mighting is mighty meaning, you live a life where you work to do your best, even no matter how challenging it is, kind of like, biking in a thunderstorm or a rainstorm or how many 50 miles. And if you were to think about living mighty, what would that mean to you?
I'm really just trying to be my best.
Yeah.
You know, definitely eating clean on the bike. Like I definitely enjoy being fit.
Mhm.
That's just the goal. It's how I prefer to live. So taking
Right.
care of yourself, being nice to others, just living your life the best you can. You don't have to be the greatest to still obtain fitness related goals in your life.
Yeah.
So yeah, just doing your best.
Perfect. Yeah, love that. Do your best. That's all you can do. All right, awesome. That's all my questions, but I think that was awesome speaking to you. Learned a little bit of insight about biking. And yeah, thank you so much.
Absolutely.